If you want to hear about St. Louis, tune into the Bucket List Show weekly. Hear what Marissa and Luke say. It drops every Wednesday. Got a dope new guest every single week. Buckle up for the ride. Who's it gonna be? Who's on the show today? They rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, Bucket List has you covered. They know what's going on. What's going on, they'll give you, hey, 18 different things to do, or 19 if you need one more to choose. Yeah, this city is a place we call home. A place we call home, yeah.
The STL Bucket List Show is driven by Bommarito Automotive Group. Bommarito is Missouri's #1 car dealership, and they are proud to represent the #1 podcast in St. Louis, the STL Bucket List Show. We've personally purchased several vehicles from Bommarito, including our last one, which we recently just had another baby, so we had to upgrade to an SUV with third row seating. The entire team, John, Chuck, they all treated us like family. There's really nowhere else that we would buy a car in Missouri other than Bommarito Automotive Group. Enjoy the show. St. Louis, welcome back to another episode of the STL Bucket List Show driven by Bommarito Automotive Group. We are so thankful to get to continue to record this podcast each and every week. We're closing in on 200 episodes. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years, and we've had hundreds of conversations with entrepreneurs, business leaders, community leaders like the one I'm talking to today. We have the Michelle Tucker, CEO of United Way of Greater St. Louis. Thank you for making the time to come to the studio today. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've heard so much about you. Your team loves working for you, obviously, is from what I've heard. I've met your team a few times.
That's very sweet.
They love working with you, and they want to give you an opportunity to talk to our audience as a younger St. Louis audience. But I want to learn a little bit more about you before we get into the interview. So as we're sitting down today, I want to talk through leadership, community impact, and what it really takes to make lasting change across our region. But before we do that, I want to hear about your journey. And what led you to a life as a CEO? I mean, it's you work for a big organization, but I want to know before you were a CEO, kind of tell us about your upbringing, where you're from, and what led you to build an impact in St. Louis.
Well, let me see a little bit about me. I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois, and I still live in Illinois, believe it or not. I'm over in Fairview Heights. I'm the youngest of three, and have been very focused always on work ethic. And so I'm going to leap forward to talk about career because, I think that, being the youngest child, I always think about the independence I've had and trying to just sort of create my own playbook. And so I have just taken that into how I think about career. But I never set out to become a CEO. Let me just tell you that, like I said, work ethic is very important to me. And it's always get into a role and do the best job that you can. And so I've always thought about things in that way. But I spent 20 years in corporate America, actually. The last 10 years, I was focused on corporate giving, community mobilization, which meant like mobilizing volunteers into the community and then sponsorships. But during that time period, I got to know this community up close and personal. I like to say the community became my classroom. And so I learned more and more about the opportunities to make things better or lead the charge in trying to make things better or raise awareness around what we could do together to impact the community. And so in 2017 is actually when I decided that I wanted to leave corporate America and cross over into the nonprofit sector. And that's where I am right now. And I've been trying to sort of bridge the gap ever since. So I bridge the gap between corporate America's understanding of what they can do to impact the community and have nonprofits understand better what corporations are looking for to partner and team up to be impactful.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think that, the corporate, coming from the corporate side of things, and obviously United Way is a bigger organization as well, but being able to bring those things that you learned in corporate America, things that you liked, things that maybe you wanted to change and be able to implement that, but also still work closely with some of these corporations that you were probably a part of or worked alongside of. So when you step into leadership, I really want to talk about, some of those challenges in your journey, whether it just be learning or things that you've learned over the years, because you lead. I mean, a lot of these places, I'm not sure exactly the employee count, but you're leading a big group of people when it comes to, the United Way of Greater St. Louis. So what are some of the challenges that come with that? And what are some of the positive things that you get to, talk about with leading a team like that?
As I think about that question, I think back to just leadership and what I was responsible for the first decade of my time in corporate America. I just talked about a little bit about the last decade, but if I go back to just the first 10 years, I was managing teams, and
Hmm.
so that increased scope, like year over year, every time I would take on a new responsibility, the team would get larger and larger. And what I learned though is that there were so many different styles that people
Hmm.
brought to the table, so many perspectives that we could leverage to become sort of a better operation or a better team. That's what I like most about what I do. It's blending perspectives and challenging us to next levels of thinking just by talking to people and understanding how maybe what's shaped them or how they think about things. And again, I think that unless we just value every perspective at the table, we will never get to a next level. So I tend to embrace that a lot in my
Hmm.
leadership style.
First Community Credit Union is the official banking partner of STL Bucket List. They've been serving St. Louis families for 90 plus years with 40 plus local branches and over 400,000 members. From personal credit loans to mortgages to kids and teen accounts, they also have a partnership with the STL Blues. You see Louis here if you're watching on YouTube. We're proud to use First Community. I use it for my own family and my own business. We're excited for them to be the official banking partner of STL Bucket List. Yeah, you talk about helping people live in their best possible lives
That's
a
our mission
lot.
statement.
Um, and I love that because I feel like we're doing that on a scale here of, highlighting and really giving opportunities to things. So United Way has such a broad reach in St. Louis specifically. For my listeners who might not fully understand the scope, how would you describe the work that United Way does day to day?
Well, we're part of the fabric of the community. And I say that because, we are typically around and assisting when you don't see us.
Mhm.
But we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is, our mission is to help people live their best possible lives. And so I would say that my personal mission aligns very well to what United Way's mission is. But we are supporting 160 nonprofit organizations that we deem as the safety net of the community. And that means that people look to this agency network to assist them in times of challenge. And that could be a daily challenge, or it
Mhm.
could be something like the recent tornado that hit, the devastating tornado that
Of course.
hit. And so we show up after every disaster, but we're helping again, 1 in 3 people, that's over 1 million people in this MSA. So it's the entire regional area. And when I say over 1 million people, when I connect with people, they all tend to have a United Way story. And I think that's because of it's just the law of numbers, right? If you talk about over 1 million people out of what, about 3 million
Right.
in this area, then it means that either that person you're talking to has been impacted by United Way or one of our agencies, or someone they know has been impacted. So everyone has a
Yeah.
United Way story.
Exactly. And I mean 1 million people, like you mentioned, that's 33% of our community. And this is ranging from the greater metro out to St. Charles over into, Illinois, kind of, obviously where you're from, the Illinois side. But collaboration seems to always be a big part of what you guys do, simply because you're in a unique position. A lot of these agencies, I've had a ton of nonprofits on the show that are solely focused on their one mission. You guys are, affecting 160 different missions, whether it's children, whether it's education, whether it's, all these different spectrums that you guys cover. So what does it mean to collaborate, and how do you work together with all these different organizations, leaders, and businesses as well to work towards one shared goal? Because there's a lot of different people that you have to work with, a lot of different, organizations and personalities and stuff.
Oh gosh, you're right. And so when I think about how we accomplish our mission, the only way we can accomplish our mission is if we work together with other people, other agencies. So I think about our community wide campaign, what's underway right now, the way that we fundraise. So it's a collective giving model. It's one that, I say it's our hallmark, because we are working with nearly 1,000 companies across this region to mobilize their employees into an employee-based campaign, which means that employees are able to give through payroll deduction. And so think about the numbers when you are connecting with nearly 1,000 companies, employees at those companies pouring into a central campaign, then we can do so much together with those gifts combined than one gift alone. So that's
Mhm.
one way to
Yeah.
sort of demonstrate our collective nature. And then the other is when I talk about this network of nonprofit agencies and say there are 160, well, there are other agencies we work with as well. But the power of those agencies working together to provide what I would refer to as wraparound services, gosh, that's the ticket right there. It's when you don't have to simply service one need. You can
Mhm.
ask more questions and figure out how you harness the power of that network to
Mhm.
fully support a person.
Exactly. And I want to talk a little bit more about St. Louis. I mean, as an East St. Louis homer, being able to make this type of impact in St. Louis right across the bridge and obviously over the bridge and all over these 6 bridges that you have to go through to get through the greater MSA. What does it mean for you to, because I'm sure when you were younger and you were climbing the corporate ladder, a lot of times people think you might have to move to get these types of opportunities. But what does it mean to be right here in your own backyard and be able to affect the communities that you grew up in as well?
That actually means the world to me, and it means so much more than had I left the market and done something different. And the reason I say that is because there's something to be said about getting to know your community up close and personal. I said that early on,
Hmm.
but it is really understanding that you're helping the people that make up, your surroundings. And I think about how many chances I had to leave this area, especially working with, when I said I was in corporate America, our headquarters was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so many times I was asked to move to the headquarters over the years, and finally, when they saw that I was not moving because my dad was ill for a very long time. And so I wanted to stay close to home.
Hmm.
Right. And so I made a decision a long time ago. I was staying here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to affect the people around me. I wanted to make a meaningful difference with people that I knew. And so I made a decision to stay here and knew that I needed to plant my roots deeper here in this market area if I wanted to stay. And that's what I did. And really, I feel like, the planets align because really it's following my passion, but it's me able to, and here we go talking about harnessing the power. It's harnessing the power of everything that I learned in corporate America, harnessing that into the nonprofit sector. And I would say it's been priceless.
Yeah. Yeah, that's inspiring. And all the people that, now can look up to you. Like, I like to talk about mentorship because, there's people that have mentored me. Now I get to kind of return the favor to the younger generation. Did you have any specific people in your life that was a significant mentor, whether it be in business or life in general? And then are you able to, turn that around and hopefully, share some of that with the younger generation as well?
Well, let me start off by saying my parents were very influential in my life, and my mom is still an influence. Unfortunately, my dad passed away about a decade ago, but both in my upbringing were very supportive. But when I think about mentorship, I recall that early on in my career, in corporate America, I had mentors, and I talked about the head office or the headquarters being in Charlotte. My mentors were in Charlotte, but they were reaching all the way into St. Louis to help to groom me, to help to share information with me that I wouldn't have learned on my own, not that early on. So I
Mm.
was, in my mid 20s learning things about, how to make decisions that could position me differently on my
Mhm.
career path. And so I was being talked about in rooms that I had never been invited in before. And so it was, I was so fortunate to have the mentors that I had. And I would say, if there were one piece of advice that I would really strongly recommend, it is to make sure you have mentors. And it doesn't have to be a formal mentor program.
Yeah.
It can be informal mentorships, and seek out mentors that help you to get better at things that maybe you shy away from or things that you don't do so well.
Mhm.
They will help you to refine skill set.
For over 150 years, SSM Health has been providing hope, healing, and opportunities to the St. Louis community. With over 40,000 employees across 4 states, they're not only delivering exceptional care, they're one of the region's largest employers, shaping the future of healthcare. We're proud to present SSM Health as the official healthcare partner of the STL Bucket List Show. If you've dreamed of a career where you're truly making a difference every day, SSM Health can help you take that to the next step. Learn more at their website in the link in the show notes. Yeah, no, that's mentorship is so powerful, and in a time where a lot of kids are learning from their phones and their tablets, and AI is kind of taking over the business landscape a little bit. It's kind of scary. My wife's a teacher. My 2 little girls I have are growing up, and I have 2 little girls that are little, but I'm like, what type of world are they going to grow up in? And to see leaders like you, specifically women leaders, now that I have 2 daughters, I mean, how does that, I mean, in the CEO world, obviously you're the minority when it comes to CEOs, being a women leader, being an African-American woman, like what is that? Is that a privilege to you? Is that something that you take very seriously so that you can inspire other people to also, chase dreams and have big goals as well?
Oh, I take it very seriously, but you'll find that I take a lot of things very seriously. But this is one of the number one things that I make sure that, I am setting the right example and modeling what I talk about, because so many times you hear people talking about things and it's like, do you really practice what you're preaching? I am someone who, I'm going to speak about things that I believe in, and I'm going to be the person that I believe in. And so it sort of aligns. I try to make sure there's alignment between the two. But I think setting an example is so important to those who come behind us. And I also believe it is our accountability to make sure we are bringing people along that come behind us, right? And helping to lift people that are coming, and traveling the road behind us, because I know the importance it had or played in my journey. And so I always make sure that there are others I'm trying to pass along knowledge or nuggets and wisdom. And there's a lot also to be said for, I know we talk about some of the negativity surrounding the phones and the information that's out there. I think that there's a place for that.
Yeah.
And gathering that information, but being able to couple it with discernment and things that balance it. That's what the ticket is.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. It's, being a parent, and, like I have a kid that's born in 2024 and 2025. So I have 2 girls back-to-back years, and I'm like, okay, what's their life going to look like when they're my age? I'm 30. So in 2055, they're going to be my age, and that's hard to wrap your mind around that, because I've built my business in the tech industry, and it's like, I love it, but I also love disconnecting and meeting people. And, post 2020 or pre 2020, there used to be more of that. And it's like, how do we navigate this business life after 2020? And especially for what you guys do, fundraising, being in front of people, meeting people, that's your ticket. That's key, to growing what you guys do, because you can't take your foot off the gas, especially when we just had all these St. Louis just needs help. We had this recent tornado that devastated, communities that were, that can't really afford to build back. They had obviously a pandemic that devastated a ton of local business and a ton of different things that happened. So, no, I love what you guys are doing. And United Way, I think and I wanted to kind of ask you from your perspective on this, about the St. Louis community in general. You have a lot of experience in St. Louis, and it's like, what are some of the greatest strengths of our city? And then what are some things that you would love for our city to work on that, we can strive for, as somebody that has served in St. Louis for such a long time?
Well, actually, it's the same example. So our greatest strength is coming together, and I see that every year. It makes me smile when we move into what we call our campaign period. So this community-wide campaign, where I see so many people, thousands upon thousands of people, come together to pour into a central campaign, because they know that they are helping people, and they know that we can't do the work that we do without that coming together. And so that's the one thing we do really, really well. And let me tell you something else about that. When we look at United Ways across the country, even in larger communities, our United Way and the way people come together is it results in us being one of the number one campaigns in the way that we come together. That speaks to St. Louis. It speaks to the generosity of this community, and what we know we have to do in order to help over 1 million people, right? And so I would say that's a greatest strength. But then on the flip side of that, there are so many opportunities for us to come together in a closer way and be more consistent with that.
Hmm.
But I've seen us do it, and I know it's there. There's so many examples I can give of us coming together and it being something really positive. But I know that,
Hmm.
with eyes wide open, there are other opportunities for us to get stronger if we just do that better.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And then, coming from a question that I have personally, how do you maintain balance and motivation when the work can sometimes feel overwhelming or emotional sometimes and then also as a CEO, it's not just the work, it's the people that work for you as well. So you have a lot of, you know, things going on, and I just want to know, from a personal standpoint is how do you balance, but then also how do you stay motivated to continue to wake up and clock in every day? You mentioned work ethic was big in your journey, but
Yes.
motivation, you need some of that to keep you going.
Well, when I think about balance, I think it's a myth.
Yeah.
People talk about work-life balance. Boy, that doesn't exist.
Hmm.
So it's really harmony that I'm after, and it's what works for me. And what works for me probably doesn't work for most people, but I'm self-motivated, and that means that I pop up every day knowing that I get to help people.
Yeah.
And I really do feel that way about it. And I know that when I end my day, I have helped people. So that keeps me motivated. So I'm always on sort of a high or trying to be really positive about the work that we do because we're making a difference. I can see
Hmm.
that we are making a difference. I believe in the fact that we're making a difference. I always say, I can't sell what I don't believe in. And I believe in this mission, and I see every day the people that we're helping. And so I think about that. And then when you talk about just different personalities, I call it managing personalities, and it
Yeah.
really helps me to just get to know people. And I like digging a little bit deeper to understand why that perspective, right? Why that perspective? Give me a little bit more so that it helps me to inform my next steps forward. So I don't always frown when someone has a different perspective. It's like I
Hmm.
try to listen a little bit closer to say, okay, what's driving that? And like I said, it helps me going forward.
The STL Bucket List Show is proudly sponsored by Suede Dispensary. With 11 Missouri area locations, Suede does so much for the St. Louis community. We've been working with this team for a couple years back since medical was here, and we're excited to support their new product launches, events, and community initiatives. We couldn't be happier to work with this premier cannabis brand, and we're excited for them to sponsor the show. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. Yeah, balance. We talk about this because I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs on the show, and they do say that balance is a myth as
It
well.
is.
And I challenge that in my own life, and I think that a balance is like a scale. Sometimes I'm all in with my family, and sometimes I'm all in with my job. And now that I got two little kids and the business and all that, I just try to be all in with whatever I'm doing at that exact moment. So I'm in this conversation in this podcast, and I'm all in on this conversation. But the second we turn these cameras off, then I might be in another conversation, and I'll try to be completely present in that. Now, that's hard because I hear my phone vibrating now. I'm sure your watch is going, or you don't even have the smartwatch. See, I love that. I don't have the smartwatch either for that specific reason. But, people are so distracted in this
Yeah.
world. And especially with what you guys are doing with United Way, there's so much information. There's so much ways that people can help, virtually now. To be able to choose to work with United Way has to feel special with you guys because of the work, the foundation that you lay in St. Louis, but then also your guys' greater foundation across the country. And the fact that, we make one of the biggest impacts here in St. Louis doesn't surprise me. Because anytime that we've needed help personally, anytime that our partners have needed help, people put out social media posts and the comments are just flooded with people that would give their last, dollar. They would give a room at their house to people that they don't even know. And to see the community work happening in North City right now with organizations that aren't even nonprofits, they're just grassroots organizations of people that are still out there working. It's been 3 months, 4 or 5 months now?
And it will take much longer.
Way longer.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you're right, and you're spot on. And so, in the example that I gave and us coming together, I think about that devastating storm that passed through and hit so many vulnerable pockets, right? It hit people that were already in a very vulnerable state, right?
Hmm.
But if you were on the other side like we were, and within an hour of that storm hitting, we leaped into motion. And I say that because we were able to move our 211 hotline into our crisis response mode. We had been watching the storm. We get special reports on whether something is potentially going to be more damaging than expected. And so we knew something pretty terrible could happen as a result. So when it hit, the team jumped into motion. And so what we are able to do is to act as a resource for people so that they can call right away and understand what types of supports are out there, right? So they're not calling, they call 911 first if needed, but then they call 211. So we were able to talk about shelter for the night or hotel stays or other basic need resources that were needed. But the other thing in coming together is we have the Regional Volunteer Center at United Way, and that means there's a virtual center where people can sign up, and there's something called spontaneous volunteerism, and so people were signing up and staging themselves and standing at the ready to be deployed as soon as they were told it was safe to go in. So that started to stack up really quickly, and through the storm, we've deployed over 6,000 people into the relief efforts. And that's a really large number. And those people came from everywhere across the region. And they're still contributing to some of the most impactful relief efforts that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's because it was a Friday night. I still remember it. And it's like to have those, staff members, but also volunteers ready to rock on Friday
Absolutely.
night. And you mentioned the community that it hit. And a lot of times what happens is like, okay, something happens. I call 911. Sometimes response time is slower during emergency as well. Sometimes people just need somebody to talk to be able to sift through all the information, because they could look up online and find all this information. But it's like just to be able to call you guys. And you guys are operating that, and then you guys point them in the direction they need. And even if it's just one night, it's like, let's take care of them tonight,
It's pretty impossible, actually, to navigate the resources on your own, though. I am so happy that 211 is in place because at our fingertips, we have over 28,000 resources. And that means that we're able to help a person to sort of navigate to resources or knit together a plan that is right for them.
Yes.
It's not a one size fits all. But think about on the other side of a disaster, again, you have people that have varied needs. I mean, some neighbors needed more than others. Some were hit more directly. Some had alternatives already. But why were they calling 211? My team is able to just take in a full assessment around what's needed and then point them to appropriate resources.
Yeah, and United Way, I mean, you guys play a role in bridging divides, whether it be economic, racial, geographic, all across the region. And then you guys do all these local initiatives and partnerships. Is there any specific initiative or partnership this year that has really stood out to you that you can speak on, that you can let people know about? Or is there anything in the past or something maybe that's coming up? I mean, you probably have all these things in the works with local initiatives. I know campaign season is huge.
Oh gosh, so many. Right now, I'm thinking about campaign, and I have to say, I'll touch back on it again and just say that campaign is one of the most important things that we do because it fuels our efforts. If without the results that we see through campaign, we aren't able to continue to do this impactful work or support this network that is the safety net of the community. Now, unfortunately, there are over 43% of the families in this regional area that can't afford to meet their basic needs on a monthly basis. 43%, that's a large number. So when you think about those families and those individuals, we're talking about people that are, many of them are likely working, but they are maybe one paycheck away from a spiral, right? If something unexpected happens, then they need resources to help to keep them on track. And that's what I smile about with 211 or with United Way or with our agencies. We're able to help people over a hump because we all experience challenges. The difference is there's a safety net that some people have to rely on to place them back on track and to keep them on track, or else the situation can get worse. So what do we do? I believe campaign is one of the strongest things we do in the in the community around this time, and then the results of it. One of the programs I would point to that let me talk about a couple of things. So one would be the way that we are able to mobilize volunteers, because I want to put I want to stress that people power matters and that following the dollars helps. And so it's not just placing the dollars behind a certain initiative or effort. It's really the manpower that helps things along, because the nonprofit sector isn't able to staff at the level that it needs to deliver on all of the things we need to help with, right? And so it helps when volunteers sign up. So I want to appeal to every listener to go to stlvolunteer.org. That's stlvolunteer.org. And it's almost like a matchmaking system, and I think people relate to that. And I say that a lot, but it's you go onto the site and you type in what your preferences are around volunteering, and a list of opportunities will display, and you can jump in. I mean, we try to meet you where you are. So I want to encourage people to get out there and volunteer. Now, one of the programs that I am excited about, it's called United for Families, and it's a 2-generational program where we are focused on the entire family unit. Now, there has to be a school-age child in the household, but we're looking at families on a holistic basis, and we're asking questions around, okay, so what are the biggest challenges and how can we take the family to a next level? So it's not just assessing what the head of household needs, but it's understanding what do the kids need and how do we put people on a financial plan or on a journey that is a success journey. And so I like that program a lot. So United for Families, that's one of our more direct service type programs. But again, we are harnessing the power of our agency network to deliver on that as well. So it takes all of us.
Looking for something light, crisp, and absolutely refreshing? Zwickle Light by Urban Chestnut is the official light beer of the STL Bucket List Show. It's less than 100 calories, and it's the perfect drink for summer. Enjoy a beer at the beer garden, in the Grove, or chilling at home in the backyard with your friends and family. This episode is sponsored by Upshot Coffee, 3 St. Louis area locations in Cottleville, Break Shop in St. Charles, and their new Hi-Fi location in Clayton. I personally use Upshot Coffee every day at my espresso machine at home, and I try to visit one of the shops at least once a week. They source the beans responsibly from local farms all across the world, and they take care of their staff, and they take care of the community. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, no, that's inspiring, and all these opportunities. You guys have your podcast. I saw, the Bank of America student leader interns were on that. The Duo Dogs Incorporated was on that. I know Joe Buck. I was reading another blog on your website about Joe Buck's commitment to helping.
Where the Heart Is, that one.
Yeah, yep. He's, and people get to see him on Monday Night Football all the time, but he's still giving back to St. Louis. And we see that a lot with a lot of the people that are from St. Louis, and a lot of the celebrities and everybody that really wants to get involved and in the community, and it takes people like you organizing that, because sometimes, there's a quote, I can't remember right now, but, action is great, but organized action is really what makes a difference. And then it's consistent. It's not just when the tornado hits. It's,
right.
Next year when some of these people still don't have roofs on their home. I know we keep talking about that, but that's just what, is going on at this moment. But there's also stuff going on all the time. I mean, there's unhoused issue in some parts of the St. Louis. There's all these different things that, that people need help with. And I want to shift gears a little bit and talk more about St. Louis, and specifically Michelle's things that she loves about St. Louis. So now we're gonna get out of the United Way bucket for a minute and talk about maybe some of your favorite things to do in St. Louis. Maybe when favorite events that come every year that you just love going to with maybe your friends and family. Maybe some date night restaurant recommendations that you love going to. I don't know if you want to give out your spots or not, or if some friends are in town, so just kind of things that if somebody asked you what you love about St. Louis, talk about some events, maybe some restaurants, some parks, some things that you love. I know it's hard to narrow it all down, and I know you have a lot, I'm sure, but.
Well, I don't get to jump out of the United Way bucket very, very often, so I'm really going to have to think about that. But some of the fun things, and they may, they're fun to me, so I will share.
Yes.
I enjoy quiet moments, and so like going to Forest Park. If I grab my lunch on the go and drive over to Forest Park and find a nice little spot to sit and just think and eat and enjoy quiet time. I do that quite often when I can get away. The other thing I like to do is I like to take my mom to the butterfly house. We just did that recently. And so I would advise that because that, I don't know, it just takes me on a different journey when I go there. It allows me to escape from all the hustle and bustle of real life outside of the butterfly house. But while there, I just, again, I let my thoughts just, I let them just take me in so many different directions. And so that's what I like. I like peaceful times because my job is so chaotic and it can be busy all the time, every day. Now I'm a foodie.
Okay.
So I love finding great restaurants. And so I will give a couple of my secret spots out. And so they'll probably, maybe they'll get more crowded now. But so in Illinois, as I said, I live in Fairview Heights, but there is a small place called Leono.
Yeah, Leono. We did our Christmas party there. That family's unbelievable.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we went there.
It's
in Waterloo, or it's in O'Fallon.
It's in O'Fallon. Don't you love the food?
It's like Hawaiian. It's like a mix of
French,
like
Polynesian. Oh my gosh, they have such
their staff is
food.
incredible too.
So friendly.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, and you just love walking in, and they greet you with such a smile.
It's a vibe in there too. I mean, they invested in the energy there, like the lights and everything.
See, it's one of your favorites.
It's one of my bucket list spots too.
Okay, it's like a little destination over there, hidden but nice little gem. And then over here, I'll tell you a recent restaurant that we tried, and it was a brunch restaurant. It's called Turn. And so my husband and I enjoyed a really nice meal there and would go back over and over. And so I would recommend that as well. It's right there on Locust.
Yep, in the Grand Center District.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I've been there.
Delicious food.
I've been everywhere. Oh,
you've been everywhere.
I'm a foodie too.
There you go. There you go. That's my thing.
If we're looking at O'Fallon, Illinois, I would also, the Leono is a good vibe, and then you got Peel right there. You could pop in and get a little slice. That little downtown in O'Fallon, Illinois is cute.
That whole little strip right there. Yeah. Yes. So it's a nice pocket.
But yeah, brunch is fun. So David, I think the owner of Turn, super high ceilings, super art vibe. In that district, you have graffiti and organized graffiti art all over that district. And St. Louis is such an arts town. You mentioned 2 spots in Forest Park. Forest Park is a gym top park in America, I think, because you have, you mentioned the Butterfly House, you have the Muni, you have the St. Louis Art Museum, you have the Boathouse, you have the zoo, you have all these things actually in Forest Park. So you could spend a whole you and your mom could go there each day of the week and go do a different thing. Yes. And then the last day you could say, Mom, stay at home. I'm going to chill by myself and eat lunch and not have to deal with anything. Cause I'm like that too. I like to go out to eat by myself, and people think that that's odd, but I don't think it's odd. I think it's nice to enjoy.
It's quiet time with yourself.
So you mentioned Leono. What about is there an event that you and your husband or, love about St. Louis, like an annual event that comes every year that you sometimes overlook, but maybe you're like, oh, it's coming up again. Like that event's so special to St. Louis. Is there any traditions that you guys have?
Well, my husband likes the hustle and bustle. He likes running towards crowds. And because I work within crowds, I like to retreat, right?
Yes.
So what I like a lot is, and he enjoys this too, but it's the balloon glow.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know. That takes me
Forest
to
Park
a different.
Again?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Forest Park. Yes. And Forest Park again. We don't have to go far to take ourselves on these adventures, but I just love at night watching the glow of the balloons. And again, it just allows me to take my thoughts in a different direction, and things aren't so scurried and there's no pressure around that. It's just a lot of serenity. And so I enjoy things like that. And so I would say I hated that. Well, balloon glow went on, but the balloon race didn't happen because of the weather this year. And I hated that. But balloon glow. Yeah,
balloon glow brings out, I think probably 20,000 plus people at least. You can't park. You better live in the Central West End or illegally park somewhere just to get there, because people were walking all up and down Kings Highway.
It's fascinating though for people of every age. I don't know. It's just the simple things.
Oh, it's romantic.
Yes.
And it's for kids. It's all I can't wait to bring my kiddos there, and the look of fire and glow and all these different things. And then the conductors,
magical.
Are they called conductors? You can walk up to them and they'll just go and pull the fire.
Love that.
And they love making the kids go crazy and stuff. So, and then there's 20 food trucks out there. You have all these local restaurants.
You can't see, you like like it too. We like a lot of the same things.
We do. Yeah, I'm a farmer's market guy. Me and my wife and kids love going to the farmer's market.
Yes. Did you used to go to Soulard?
I used to live by Tower Grove, so I would go to Tower Grove.
Okay, yes.
My friends and family live out in St. Charles. They got Lake St. Louis Farmers Market. Brentwood does a really good one now. Soulard is the OG one, though.
That's the OG one, but I'm a little older than you. Don't call it the OG
the
one.
OG
But
yes,
yes,
no,
you're
Soulard
right.
still
My
pops
parents
off.
used to take me when I was a child to the Soulard market. But, I like the idea of farming. And we used to have a garden at our house while growing up. And, I love that and wish that where I was today, I could go back to that. But it's just not practical right now, but
to grow your garden.
Well, the deer and the other things will probably eat it, but I don't have a lot of time to tend to a garden.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, we could probably talk all day. I don't want to spend any more of your time. I want to thank you for coming on to the episode today. Hopefully the people that are listening leave inspired. We're going to drop a bunch of links on how people can get in touch with you guys. Obviously, stlvolunteer.org. I just looked that up. Super cool little fun, algorithm system that you guys built for people to get connected. And then your guys' main website, helpingpeople.org.
Helpingpeople.org. And please, I want to ask listeners to tap in. Don't sit back and wait for someone else to lead. We all can lead from every seat that we're in. And so that's another piece of advice I would give to people.
And follow on social media because, United Way STL on Instagram, on Facebook, it's a free way for you guys to just get involved with things that you're doing. You guys have a great newsletter that I'm on. I was actually an ambassador of you guys like 3 or 4 years ago.
Thank you.
We need to relaunch that in 2026, but I was one of the influencer celebrity ambassadors that you guys did a program. This would have been like 2021, I think. So it was super fun. We got to do some Cardinals game stuff and some different stuff that you guys did.
We have to have you back.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for volunteering. I'm pulling you back.
Pull it in.
The other thing is United Young Leaders. Are you familiar with that?
I heard your team, and we have a meeting with your team later this week, actually.
Well, good. They're doing their job.
Yes, yeah. Okay. I'm meeting with Shantae and the crew, which she's probably listening. Hopefully she's listening to the end. So let's see if she says anything about this.
She's listening. She texted me as I drove up.
Yeah, she couldn't make it today, but she'll be coming back Thursday, and we're going to do a fun little meeting. So, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on. Give you a little handshake.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun.
Of course. And St. Louis, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Hey, St. Louis, Brent Labowitz, Labowitz Law Firm, personal injury law firm here in St. Louis. Excited to be part of the STL Bucket List and sponsor them for their podcast. Just want to go ahead and say, if you ever need a personal injury lawyer here in town in St. Louis, give us a call, look us up. You get involved in an accident of any type at all, give us a call, free case evaluation. We'll try to walk you through the process.
Today, they rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, Bucket List has you covered. They know what's going on.